Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and pretty esoteric text from 1967. It's called Chapters of Life by Lobsang Rampa, and we're going to unpack its truly unique and kind of wild vision of our reality.
Right away, the book sets this very particular mood with these strange little stories. One of them is about an artist, right? He's all alone in his house during a storm, and he's just found out his wife left him and took all his money. So in this moment of total crisis, he's hit by this powerful, disturbing feeling of déjà vu, and he just whispers to himself, "It has all happened before."
So, Rampa kicks things off by exploring a concept you've probably heard of, a second coming. But he immediately gives it this cosmic twist that basically sets the stage for everything else that follows. He claims that history is deeply cyclical, like a giant loop. So that big event people call the second coming, in his view, it's not the second at all. Nope, it's actually the 10th in what he calls a round of existence, a cycle that's been repeating for millions of years. To explain the state of our world, Rampa brings in this concept from Hindu cosmology, calling our time the age of Kali. He frames all the destruction and suffering we see not as some random tragedy, but as a necessary purification, a really painful but required step before a new golden age can begin.
And get this, writing back in 1967, Rampa lays out a very specific timeline for this whole transition. He predicts it all starts with new disciples being born in 1941, followed by a savior born in 1985, who would then pop up as a world leader around 2005 to kickstart this new era.
All right, let's switch gears to Rampa's next big idea. It starts with another one of those relatable human experiences, but then expands it into a whole theory about the nature of our soul. So he tells the story about an old professor who's giving a lecture on the mysterious Sumerian civilization. And suddenly, wham, the professor gets this flash of insight, a moment of déjà vu so powerful, it feels like he has the answer to this ancient mystery, but just for a second, right before he faints. So what's up with these intense, unexplainable moments of familiarity? Rampa uses these feelings of confusion as the perfect launchpad for one of his most central and, frankly, unusual concepts. Rampa's explanation for these moments is a wild one. He says you are not a single, isolated soul. No, instead, you're just one of many puppets being operated by a single higher consciousness, a master puppeteer he calls the Overself. And this one theory is supposed to explain so much. Your subconscious, for example, that's just the rest of the Overself's attention being elsewhere. That deep, instant connection you sometimes feel with a total stranger? Well, they might just be a fellow puppet. Rampa even uses this for historical figures like Joan of Arc, suggesting her military genius came from crossed wires with another puppet who was meant to be a warrior. Okay, let's dive into this next idea, which takes the concept of duality and just blows it up to the scale of the entire planet. Rampa argues pretty simply. You know how a battery needs a positive and a negative pole to create energy? He says everything in existence is like that. It has to have its opposite to function. Good needs evil, God needs an anti-God, and our world of matter, well, it needs a parallel world of antimatter. And this whole polarity thing is Rampa's explanation for why evil seems to have the upper hand right now. He says our world is currently the negative pole, but, and this is the key part, he argues that it's like an alternating current. The flow is destined to switch. Our world will eventually flip back to positive, and that's when an age of goodness will begin.
Okay, and this is where Rampa's theory gets really interesting. He doesn't just present this as some spiritual concept. He actually uses real-world mysteries as evidence for these parallel worlds. So, what happens when these two worlds actually touch? Well, according to the book, the result is usually a massive, catastrophic explosion. But in certain rare places, these vortices, where the veil between worlds is thin, a doorway can briefly flicker open.
He points right at the Bermuda Triangle and other areas known for mysterious disappearances. He's not saying these are accidents. He claims these are instances where people, ships, and planes have literally slipped through one of these holes in time and space and ended up in the antimatter world.
So you're probably thinking, how could any of this even be possible? Well, Rampa's final key concept is the one that ties everything together, the existence of higher dimensions. Rampa explains this really methodically, actually. He kind of walks us up the ladder, starting from a single dimension, just a simple line, through our familiar three-dimensional world,
all to help us try and wrap our heads around what a fourth dimension might be like.
And the analogy he uses is fantastic. Imagine a little 2D stick figure inside a box drawn on a piece of paper. To that figure, those walls are absolute. It's trapped. But to us, in 3D, we can see the box has no lid. We could easily just reach in. Rampa argues our locked rooms are just like that box to a being in the fourth dimension.
So, you see, this concept of higher dimensions is the key that unlocks everything else. A 4D being could simply reach into our 3D world and move an object from a locked room, and that's teleportation. And ghosts? They're just three-dimensional shadows being cast by beings moving through the fourth dimension.
So in the end, Chapters of Life presents this complex, totally interconnected worldview. You've got prophecies, puppet master souls, antimatter worlds, and higher dimensions. It's a vision of reality that is bizarre, but also surprisingly consistent, and it leaves us all to wonder about the boundaries of our own reality.